Modern society has engineered physical friction out of our daily existence. The human organism now resides in perpetual 22 degrees Celsius environments, entirely divorced from the thermal demands of the natural world. This analysis draws upon the work of Danny Kessler, associate professor at Dongsu University and Korea's first PhD in wellness tourism. A clear behavioral paradox exists in these modern environments. While citizens eagerly consume internal thermal shocks, such as the ubiquitous iced espresso, they systematically avoid allowing cold water to touch the skin. This deliberate avoidance creates an evolutionary mismatch. Human biology evolved to react to severe environmental shifts, not to idle endlessly in absolute thermal comfort. When an environment lacks physical friction, the biological system detects no mechanical reason to maintain its resilience. It simply powers down. Zooming into the cellular level reveals the hidden cost of this comfort. Without the specific demand of external temperature stress, the mitochondria, the energy-producing centers of the cell, become stagnant, generating a visibly reduced output of cellular energy. A highly functioning organism mechanically requires environmental stress. To optimize energy production, the biological engine must be forced to adapt. The resulting cellular stagnation suggests that absolute physical comfort directly precedes widespread cognitive lethargy. Counteracting this evolutionary stagnation requires a biological phenomenon known as hormesis. This chart maps stress dose on the horizontal axis against biological benefit on the vertical axis, creating a distinct J-shaped curve. Hormesis is the process where a low dose of a stressor triggers genomic resilience. The effectiveness relies on calculating the correct dose. While massive exposure to extreme temperatures is toxic, a brief, calculated shock hits the optimal peak on this curve. Hitting this optimal dose forces the human genome to deploy a systemic survival response. Acute, calculated physical discomfort serves a mechanical purpose. It is a non-negotiable requirement for activating biological resilience. Acute cold exposure operates as a mechanical switch for the body's neurochemistry. This integrated data chart captures the immediate impact. Plunging into cold water triggers an instant 300% spike in norepinephrine. Norepinephrine acts as both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. Surging through the brain, it governs attention, elevates mood, and forces intense cognitive focus. Unlike the temporary stimulation provided by caffeine, this biological reaction executes a reset of the brain's emotional baseline. This concentrated chemical wash actively strips away mental fatigue and clears cognitive fog. The neurochemical spike induced by the cold is the quantifiable biological predecessor to elite executive focus. These adaptations extend beyond brain chemistry, triggering a whole-body metabolic response. Thermal stress initiates a functional process known as the browning of white adipose tissue. White fat serves as passive energy storage. Brown fat, conversely, operates as an active, mitochondria-rich metabolic furnace. Once activated by the cold, this metabolic furnace burns calories to generate heat, a process that simultaneously improves systemic insulin sensitivity. Alongside this metabolic shift, the body releases brain-derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF. BDNF supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones, providing the structural foundation for cognitive adaptation. True biological transformation, whether in metabolism or neural growth, is earned through high-intensity challenges. It is never passively given. Shifting from cellular biology to psychology, this physiological discipline aligns with Albert Bandura's theory of self-efficacy. Willingly enduring acute cold water builds the business grit required for high-level executive decision-making. This method of thermal biohacking is heavily embedded in history, having been practiced for generations in Korea. The traditional Korean Mokyotung serves as a pre-existing, highly accessible biohacking sanctuary. Systematically moving between the hot tub and the cold plunge acts as a rigorous, deliberate vascular exercise. The physical endurance required in these baths translates into psychological reinforcement, training the mind to process high-pressure tasks with clarity. The 𝗏𝗀𝗻 remains a universal, culturally embedded laboratory for building executive self-efficacy. Applying this protocol safely requires acknowledging a critical limitation. Cold exposure has exact parameters, and dosage dictates its efficacy. This timeline visualizes the sweet spot for systemic efficacy, located between 30 seconds and 2 minutes of exposure. Extending the exposure beyond this 2-minute window introduces physical risk while yielding diminishing biological returns. True wellness optimization requires adhering to the data of human survival rather than simply attempting to endure maximum pain. Elite biological resilience is achieved through precision and disciplined timing, not reckless endurance. The direct application of this science is entirely within your control. It begins with the 30-second challenge. Tomorrow morning, execute your normal shower routine, but finish the final 30 seconds with maximum cold water. Mentally reframe this momentary shock. It is not an inconvenience to avoid, but a deliberate, high-performance protocol to execute. The strategy requires 3 steps. First, embrace hormesis to reset the biological system. Second, use the environmental shock to spike norepinephrine and force cognitive focus. Third, utilize the daily challenge to build the self-efficacy required for executive leadership. Look closely at the structure of your daily life. If you have eliminated all physical friction from your routine, it is time to reintroduce the right dose of stress. Systemic resilience and executive grit are not inherited traits. They begin the moment you willingly turn the handle to cold.